Welcome back to Mooney Makes. My name is Callie, and tonight I'm going to take you along with me while I make dinner, and I'm going to be making a broccoli and shrimp pasta. So this recipe is a really great weeknight dinner as it's quick, it's easy, it's delicious, it's healthy, and starting this new year in 2024, I want to share more of just the meals that I make on a weekly basis that I love, that I know that you are going to love as well. And of course, I'm going to keep sharing desserts and so many other yummy recipes, but this I really want to start incorporating into my YouTube channel. So let's get right into it, but before we begin, as always, please remember to subscribe, like, share, chat in the comment section, and follow me on social media for more recipes and additional content. So let's get right into it. These are the ingredients that we are going to be using. I have some broccoli. I have about 1.5 heads of broccoli that I just cut up into small florets like so. I have some parsley, grated minced parsley, lots of garlic. I have some extra virgin olive oil. I have a little bit of dry white wine. You can omit the wine if you don't want to add it, or if you don't have it on hand. You could swap it out for maybe a little bit of vegetable or chicken broth, or you could just leave it out altogether and the recipe will still be delicious. I've done that plenty of times. I have some shrimp. So I'm using some medium-sized shrimp that are peeled and deveined. You could buy them peeled and deveined, or you could do it yourself, whatever you like, and they are, of course, defrosted. I have some freshly grated Parmesan cheese, a little bit of lemon, salt. Here I have some of the reserved pasta water that is nice and starchy. We'll talk more about that later, but I boiled some pasta. It is sitting in the colander over there, and I just reserved about a cup or so of the pasta water. We'll talk more about that later again. And so that's what that's for. I have some salt. I also have some black pepper, and I'm using Aleppo pepper. If you don't want to use Aleppo pepper, you could use some red pepper flakes. Aleppo pepper is a little bit more mild and has some fruity, citrusy kind of undertones to it. And it's, like I said, a little bit more mild than red pepper flakes, but either will do. If you don't want it spicy, you can leave it out completely. So let's do this. First things first, I'm going to turn on my burner here to high heat, and we are going to, or medium high heat, and we are going to cook the shrimp. So I'm going to add in some of my extra virgin olive oil while this gets nice and heats up, and I'm just going to wait for this to heat up and then we'll continue. Okay, so my oil is nice and hot, so I'm going to add in the shrimp like so. That one still has the tail on, that's okay. So I like to add the shrimp all in kind of one layer, like what I'm about to do right now, because you want them to cook evenly. So if they're all stacked on top of each other, they're not going to cook evenly. So I'm just going to level this out. Okay, so I'm going to season the first side. For now, we're just using some salt and pepper. So give that a good pinch of salt. I always cook with kosher salt, but any salt will do. And I'm gonna hit this with some black pepper. That'll come out, there we go. Okay, so shrimp really takes no time to cook at all. It's probably only gonna take maybe like a minute and a half on the first side, a minute and a half, 2 minutes on the second side. You're gonna know once they are finished cooking, and I'll show you once they're fully finished cooking. But once they start getting, you know, pink, the pink is going to let you know that they are finished cooking. So these need a little bit more time, and once they're ready, we'll flip. Okay, we're back, and as you can see here, these are nice and pink and cooked through. I'm just gonna give them one little toss here, and I have a plate ready right over here to put them on. So I'm just gonna remove them from the pan for now. And actually, before I do that, I'm gonna turn the heat down to medium because we are going to cook some other things next, the garlic. Okay, so I removed the shrimp, and next I'm gonna toss in the remaining olive oil along with the garlic. And I'm gonna cook the garlic for maybe a minute and a half or so, or however long it takes until it's lightly golden in color. You don't wanna overcook it because it's gonna continue to cook after, but we're giving it a little head start right now. So I'm just gonna toss this in, and then we'll add the broccoli. Okay, so the garlic is nice and lightly golden brown, and so next I'm gonna toss in the broccoli. And listen to that sizzle. And so next we're gonna cook the broccoli until it cooks down pretty much completely. You want it to really cook down quite a bit. It's gonna be slightly charred in some places. Right now I'm just tossing it in that garlicky oil, and I do wanna point out that I love garlic. I use quite a bit of garlic in lots of my recipes, and And if you don't like garlic as much as I do, you could of course cut the amount that I'm using in half. However, I don't know why you do that. It really is providing so much flavor. And for the Italians out there, I do know, I am aware that in Italy, they do not typically eat as much garlic, like the actual pieces of garlic in a lot of their pastas. Sometimes they'll throw in like a clove of garlic, let it kind of infuse into the oil, and then retrieve the garlic clove out of the oil. But hey, this is what I like. It's delicious. I've cooked this for so many people and they like it as well. So, you know, cooking is really a preference, and I know I'm breaking some rules here, but that's okay. So next, I'm gonna hit this with a good pinch of salt, like so. And remember, we are adding the shrimp that is salty. We're gonna have some Parmesan cheese that is salty. Your water that you're cooking your pasta in should be nice and salted as well. You wanna add maybe like 2 teaspoons or so of salt to the boiling water. So just be careful. You could always salt it a little more at the end, but you just don't want to over salt it. So I just added in some salt and pepper, and you know what? We're gonna go in with the Aleppo flakes at this point as well. And like I said, you could keep these out completely if you don't want to add them. But you know, even if you add a little bit, it's not gonna be spicy, but it is gonna add flavor. So I recommend just adding a little something. If you really don't want to, of course you don't have to. So next up, I'm gonna toss this, and like I said, I'm gonna cook these on medium until the broccoli is nice and cooked down and slightly charred in some places, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's there. Okay, we're back. It has been about, I don't know, maybe like 10, 12 minutes, and as you can see here, the broccoli has gotten nice and charred in quite a few places. It looks delicious. So next, we're gonna toss in the shrimp, and you wanna make sure to add all those juices that kind of accumulated on the bottom of the plate. Add those back in as well. I'm gonna give this a toss really quick. Okay, and so next, I'm gonna throw in the white wine. But before I do that, I'm gonna turn the heat up to high. I had it on medium before that. And I'm gonna toss this in. Give everything a toss in this white wine, and I'm gonna cook this for about a minute on high heat, like I said. Okay, so this cooked for about a minute, and when you cook the alcohol on high heat like that, it actually helps, it evaporates the alcohol out of the wine, but you're left with that really delicious flavor. So next up, what I'm gonna do is add in about half of the reserved pasta water, and I'm going to let that come up to a simmer. Okay, next I'm gonna add in the pasta. You could use any pasta of choice, but I'll always recommend to you adding a kind of pasta like maybe rigatoni, or like this one that has ridges on it. And the reason for that is because pasta with ridges helps the sauce adhere to the pasta. So there we go. I'm gonna toss this all together at this point. And I want to point out that pasta water is going to help kind of make this sauce. So as you can see here, there is some liquid at the bottom, but as the pasta cooks in the sauce, it's going to finish cooking in the sauce, and it's really going to absorb that sauce as well and all of those really delicious flavors. I'm also gonna throw in a tablespoon of butter and let that cook and let it melt, and it's really just gonna make this rich and delicious. And I didn't say earlier, but it's important to also note that the pasta, I cooked it about a minute shy of al dente. So you wanna cook it according to the package's instructions. But if the package says to cook the pasta for, let's say, 9 minutes until al dente, you want to cook it for 8 minutes until al dente, because like I said earlier, it's going to finish cooking in the sauce. So I'm going to stir this until the butter melts, and in fact, I'm actually going to turn the heat off at this point because the residual heat will melt the butter just enough. Okay, so next up, I'm going to toss in the juice of half a lemon. Taste it. If you want to add more lemon, you can add as much as you want. It's entirely up to you. But this lemon always goes really great with the flavor of white wine. So that is going in. I'm also gonna add in the Parmesan cheese. And some people, I do know, have some really strong feelings about adding in cheese with fish. I think it's delicious in this recipe. But if you, for whatever reason, really don't want to add in the cheese with the shrimp, don't add it. It's up to you. Cooking is preference. I'll say that now and I'll say that again. So I'm gonna toss this all together until it is nice and combined. Okay, and so next I'm gonna throw in that parsley. I like adding quite a bit of parsley. It is a flavor maker in this recipe. I'm gonna give this a toss, and I also wanna add that, like I said earlier, you wanna reserve maybe about a cup of the pasta water, and that pasta water is really going to help kind of contribute to the sauce. So if at this point you feel like maybe your pasta is a little too dry, add a little bit more of that pasta water. It helps the sauce adhere to the pasta, but it also kind of forms that sauce, and it lifts some of those flavors off the bottom of the pan, and it's just really delicious. So next up, I'm gonna give you a close-up of just how incredibly amazing this pasta dish really is. As always, for the full written recipe and instructions, head to my blog, moodymakesrecipes.com. I'll put the link for that in the description box below. Click on the link, the recipe will come right up, and make this broccoli shrimp pasta. I know you're gonna love it, and let me know what you think because I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.